Hola, buenas. Hoy os traigo una nueva entrevista-conversación, más bien entrevista y de una manera algo diferente a lo habitual. Os explico. Hace poquito descubrí una banda japonesa que me fascinó y decidí contactar con ellos. Esta banda se llama Cissné, conformada por la vocalista Hikage, ex vocalista de otra banda llamada Songwriting, Hiro, guitarrista y Ai, bajista. Cissné me llamó la atención por la variedad de géneros y subgéneros que entremezclan en su música, ya que mezclan screamo, post-black metal, post-classical, scramz, etc. Además de la buena calidad de sonido que tienen y lo talentosos que son, tanto a nivel individual como en conjunto. Si os he dicho que es algo diferente a lo habitual es porque ya os habréis dado cuenta, pero no dispondremos de la cámara para esta entrevista, ya que es una entrevista escrita. ¿Por qué? Ellos son japoneses y me pidieron que, debido a la dificultad que tienen a día de hoy para poder hablar inglés, hiciésemos la entrevista escrita. Y así ha sido. Por lo que, en primer lugar, como ya he dicho, no habrá cámara por ninguna de las dos partes. Y en segundo y último lugar, yo seré quien lea las preguntas en idioma original. Y serán las voces de inteligencia artificial, una para cada uno de los integrantes, quienes respondan las preguntas, con el objetivo de hacer dinámica y lo más realista posible esta entrevista. Así que espero que os guste mucho este formato y si no les habéis escuchado, dadle una oportunidad, porque tienen únicamente sacados 2 singles, Will y Straysheep, y pronto vienen con más música. Son fascinantes. Así que nada, espero que os guste muchísimo esta entrevista, sobre todo este formato más dinámico, y nos vemos en el próximo vídeo. ¡Chao, chao! So, first of all, there's like a question that I'm really curious about, like, where does the name of the band Cissné come from? Would you mind telling me the story behind the name?
Before Cissné, I had a previous project called Swan Cry. There is a legend that swans sing beautifully right before they die, which is where the term swan song comes from. But since my way of expressing myself leans more towards screaming, I changed it to Swan Cry. When forming the band, I wanted to carry over the swan motif from that project. So I took Cissné, the French word for swan, and altered it slightly to create the name Cissné.
Why did you decide to start a new project and combine post-black, scramz, ambient and post-classical music? How did you meet each other and which bands or artists inspired you to start this project?
I met Hiro at the very first live show of my previous project, Swan Cry. I asked his band at the time to play that show. After hearing Swan Cry, he told me, "I think I could write songs that suit you even better." That's how it started. He began contributing songs to Swan Cry, which eventually led to this project.
Cissné began with my meeting Hikage, our vocalist. She originally had a solo project called Swan Cry, and I helped with composition for some of those songs. As we kept making music together, we started talking about wanting to do this as a proper band. Since we were going to commit to it, we also wanted to dig much deeper into the music and make something more refined and deliberate. We spent a lot of time talking about the kind of music we each listen to in our daily lives, regardless of genre. The intensity of post-black and skramz, and the quietness and space found in ambient and post-classical music may seem like opposites at first, but to me, they're simply different facets of the same emotions. We listen to a lot of music beyond just band-oriented genres, and those shared values naturally overlapped, shaping what Cissné sounds like today.
I was invited by Hiro, whom I had played with in various music scenes before, to support Swan Cry as a performer. That experience is what led to me meeting Hikage and eventually joining this project.
So this question goes to each one of you. Like, when did your fascination with music begin? And when did you start playing instruments and composing?
When I was 7, my family moved to a new town because of my older brother's school. There was a game shop there that sold used single CDs for just 10 yen each. I used to follow my brother when he went to look at games, and every time I'd spend my allowance on CDs instead. I think it was because games were too expensive for me to buy. Most of the CDs they had were pop or idol music that would chart in Japan, so they didn't directly influence Cissné's current sound. But there's no doubt that buying so many CDs back then is what first sparked my interest in bands. I admired bands like Bump of Chicken and Acid Man, so when I was in junior high school, I bought a guitar. But I didn't enjoy playing it at all and quit pretty quickly.
I started playing guitar in the summer when I was 15, mainly due to my parents' influence. At first, I was just playing for fun, but I think I began writing songs around the age of 19, when I started my previous band. Looking back now, those early songs were completely chaotic, but the experience of layering sounds without really knowing what I was doing has definitely carried over into how I approach music today.
When I was little, my mom always played various kinds of music in the car, so music was something I naturally grew up listening to. It wasn't until junior high school, when I started going to karaoke, that I became interested in making music myself. I began playing instruments in high school through club activities, and that's when I really fell into it, thinking, I'm going to become a professional bassist.
You know, I noticed that Hikage was involved in a solo project before joining this new project, and that Hiro has also participated in alternative projects in the past. How do you reflect on those previous experiences, and to what extent do you think they have influenced the sound that you are creating today?
My experience with my solo project was incredibly significant. Since I didn't really know how to make songs at the time, I recorded the vocals for my first EP in my living room using a 3,000 yen USB microphone meant for remote work, plugged directly into my PC. I didn't know anything about even the most basic things, so I researched various things on my own and learned from people I met along the way. When I released my first full-length album, it was carried by CD shops all over Japan, and I even got to play a mini live show inside Tower Records. That experience made me genuinely happy. Everything I learned through my solo project is something I still apply to Cissné today. Musically, working with multiple composers helped me clearly understand my own strengths, weaknesses, and what I truly wanted to express. That clarity is what allowed me to really connect with Hiro, and without those experiences, Cissné would never have come into existence.
All of my past projects form the foundation of what Cissné is today. Through working solo and playing in other bands, I came to understand not only what I can do, but also what I don't want to do. Because of those experiences, I feel that I can now choose only the sounds that truly feel necessary, in a much more honest and straightforward way.
This is another question that I have to ask to each one of you. Which artists or bands inspire you in your daily life and in your creative musical process?
When I get stuck while writing vocal parts, I listen to Envy, Alcest, and Sylvain.
I listen to a variety of music. Rather than being tied to a specific genre, I'm strongly influenced by artists who handle emotions with honesty and sincerity. I'm drawn less to expressions that make me think, I want to be like this, and more to ones that make me feel, this is how I want to exist.
When I want to relax and clear my head, I listen to Hot Milk and the Home Team.
So, in your day-to-day life, how do you balance your personal life with your musical life?
I don't really have hobbies, and I only hang out with friends a few times a year. So most of the time, I'm either doing things related to Cissné or sleeping. I sleep a lot.
Honestly, I don't really try to separate the two completely. Music exists as an extension of my everyday life, and at the same time, my life seeps into the music. By not forcing a strict division, I think I'm able to keep creating in a more natural way.
I often think I'm just living my personal life, and then suddenly realize I'm making music again. So maintaining a clear balance is pretty difficult.
This kinda be really similar, but it's not the same. Like, I want to ask you, how does everyday life, emotions, problems, routines influence the way you write music and lyrics?
Almost all of my lyrics come directly from my own emotions, so facing those feelings honestly is very important to me. Rather than writing about newly formed emotions, I often turn to feelings that have stayed with me since childhood and never really disappeared.
Emotions and everyday experiences are reflected very directly in the direction the music takes. By releasing feelings and contradictions that I can't fully organize as music, I'm often finally able to accept them myself. That said, I can only write songs when I'm feeling mentally okay.
There is something that I'm really curious about. Could you mind telling me about your creative process from the initial idea through composition and recording to the final release?
In most cases, I start by creating a demo that serves as the initial blueprint, and then Hikage adds the vocals on top of it. After that, we refine the arrangements for each part until the song is complete. Rather than aiming for a finished form from the beginning, it feels more like we're searching for where the song itself wants to go as we work on it.
I add vocals to the demos that Hiro sends me. After deciding on a rough structure, I work out the melodies and lyrics. Once the members give their approval, we move on to recording. For now, I record the vocals by myself. It's easier to manage the schedule that way, and I feel more relaxed, so I've grown to really like this approach.
Talking a little bit more about the EP of 2 songs called Will, Straysheep, how was the experience of working with Gerpfast for the physical release of Will, Straysheep? I noticed that they are already sold out. Congratulations on that. Are you planning to continue making physical copies for future releases?
It was a great honor to work with Gerpfast. Having music exist in a physical form that you can actually hold still carries a special meaning for me. For future releases as well, if the work and the timing feel right, we're definitely open to continuing to make physical editions.
Even after the cassette sold out, Gerpfast has continued to promote our live shows and releases on social media. That really made me feel, once again, that I want to keep working with people who create things with genuine love, and to be able to give that same kind of love back. Personally, I love physical releases much more than digital ones, so if possible, I'd like to keep making as many physical editions as we can.
You know, I have to highlight the high quality of the production, mixing and mastering of both songs. How was the experience of working with Shion Kamoshita for recording and with Greenface for mixing and mastering? What is your personal background with them? Why did you choose to work with them for these first releases? And how do you think they'll help shape your sound?
The recording, mixing and mastering were all handled with the help of close friends. I've always felt that I want to create music together with people I have strong relationships with. And for these releases as well, I worked with friends I truly trust. It really feels like working as a team, and that's something I'm deeply grateful for.
Getting more technical here, like in terms of arrangements, you worked with Takefuchi for the drum arrangements and with Shiori Matsumoto for the piano arrangements. How do you think they contributed to the final result?
No matter how detailed my requests were, the two of them always came back with ideas that went beyond what I had asked for. I think their sense of balance is truly exceptional. Their arrangements never overpower the song, but they're never monotonous either. As a result, the arrangements fit the image of the songs perfectly, and I feel they brought out expressions we never could have reached on our own.
Talking more deeply about the songs, regarding the first song, Will, you can really feel how emotional, experimental and intense it is. What was the main idea behind the song? The piano and guitar melodies add such a beautiful texture, and the musical chaos in the final minutes is striking. Is this a way of expressing how overwhelmed, sad and emotionally drained you felt while creating it?
With Will, I wanted to express both the intention to break away from preconceived ideas and the state of emotions swelling up until they become impossible to contain. That progression was intentional. We translated the sensation of emotions slipping out of control directly into the structure of the song. Interestingly, I was actually in pretty good spirits while working on it. That said, I do remember struggling a lot during the demo writing phase.
When I first heard the demo, vivid imagery came to mind, almost like a scene from a film. I pictured a boy standing in a forest deeply covered in snow, waiting for someone. I wrote the lyrics by building a story where my own emotions overlapped with that imagery. I often get messages asking, "Could you show me the lyrics?" But this song is made up of scattered fragments from the boys' and the girls' diaries, so it's difficult to present it as a single complete text.
Talking about the other song called Straysheep, the song starts in a very dreamy shoegaze atmosphere and then shifts into something more screamo and chaotic before returning to something beautiful again. Was this intentional? How do you decide when to switch between genres within a song?
To some extent, it's intentional, but rather than being carefully calculated, a large part of it comes from something closer to instinct. We genuinely love a wide range of music, and it doesn't feel like we're consciously trying to switch genres when we write. As a result, when we're making a song, it often naturally ends up with this kind of structure. I think that's probably the most honest form for us right now. It's not that we're deliberately trying to do something new, but because we've listened to so many different kinds of music with the same intensity, our expression naturally becomes this kind of hybrid. In a way, I think this is simply the only kind of music we can make.
There is something that I'm really curious about, and it's because I'm really a big fan of your music, and I know that it's kind of difficult, because you are from Japan and all that stuff, but would you mind sharing any upcoming live dates? Are you planning to come to Europe? It will be a pleasure to see you live.
We currently have several shows scheduled in Japan, as well as an upcoming live performance in Bangkok, Thailand. From next year onwards, we'd really like to play more shows overseas. We definitely want to come to Europe someday. If there are any promoters who would like to invite us, we'd be very happy to hear from them.
And finally, probably the most difficult question ever that I have to ask to every artist or band that comes here. I would like to ask you, each one of you, this difficult question. What are the top 3, 5 or even 10 albums that have had the biggest impact on your personal lives, your creative process, or that are simply your all-time favorites?
The albums that had a strong influence on my vocal style are Post-Catastrophe by Yukue Shirezu Tsurezure and Recitation by Envy. In terms of albums that influenced my life itself, Orbital Period by Bump of Chicken is especially important to me. I listened to it constantly during my teenage years, which were the hardest period of my life. As for more recent favorites from the past 1 or 2 years, Choo Choo, Night, and Wanderer, Alceste, Les Chants de l'Aurore, Oine, Prima che tutto bruci.
Honestly, there are far too many to narrow down. But if I had to choose just 3 for now, they would be Matryoshka, Leideronet, Near Replicant, original soundtrack, To, for Long Tomorrow. There are many more I'd love to talk about, but I'll save that for another time.
Miri, Magmer, Hot Milk, A Call to the Void, The Home Team, The Crucible of Life.